All right, welcome back to the channel, guys. I am here with the top 8 deck lists from Nationals. So this is really cool that Format Library was able to track down and gather every deck list of the top 8 players. It's a little bit more obnoxious to do this, so shout out to them because this is an in-person event. So you have to rely on YouTube videos where people do deck profiles. You have to reach out to the players. There's like a whole lot of work that goes into getting the deck list when it's not an online tournament. Because with the online ones, all of our deck lists are submitted electronically and then they can just pull them from a database. But again, in this case, they had to kind of track them down. Here's a picture of the top 8 players. I'm the second person to the left. If I'm not mistaken, this was the biggest Edison tournament since SJC Edison in 2010. So that is really cool. We had that European tournament in real life a couple months ago that Joshua Schmidt was hosting or like co-hosting with someone. And that one had 200 players and Frogs took it down. Just straight Frog Monarchs. But this one was even bigger than that. And so to anyone looking, a lot of eyes were on this tournament as a very, very competitive event. There were a lot of good players in this event, a lot of players from the online Edison community, and also players who I haven't seen in years who are just absolute killers and players who have won YCSs and all types of stuff. So there were a lot of good players in this event. And this is pretty much the most important tournament of the year, I feel like. Not only is the prize the biggest, because the first place prize sold for like $5,000. So that's an insane prize pool. I'm pretty sure there's never been an Edison tournament with a prize that high, at least not one that I can think of. But yeah, the prize was insane. The prestige was insane. Like obviously Konami featuring, there were a couple articles they did. They featured me, Tom Mack, Sean McCabe in an article. They did a finals feature match between a True Hero and Matt Kalinda. So there's a good amount of coverage on the official Konami website. I think that's awesome that they actually do that type of stuff. They ask players like, why do you play Edison? You know, what brings you to this format? So check that stuff out on Konami's website. It's on their blog website to be specific. I'll actually leave a link to that article that I'm talking about. And then from that article, you can kind of just like jump around to the other ones. But yeah, this was a highly competitive event. And the players who made top 8, like again, they're all very good players. But all right, let's get into the deck list. Okay, so starting from the players who got top 8, we have Taylor Bajelka. I'm not sure if I'm saying your last name correctly. Maybe the B is silent, I'm not sure. But I played this player in top 8 actually. They're playing Diva Hero Beat. I don't know if I saw a Diva in either game, but there was a point where I started to wonder if it wasn't Diva Hero Beat and maybe just Hero Beat. But yeah, this deck is tried and true. It's very good. I like that he plays the 1 copy of Bubble Man and 3 copies of E-Call. There was a point in the game where he did special summon Bubble Man and I got very nervous because I started to fear that I might actually lose the game. He established a Brionic, and at the time, I don't think I had an out to it. And I was like, okay, so the Brionic is going to live an extra turn, and that is really, really bad for obvious reasons. But I think eventually I drew an Econ or something like that. I was able to take it and then kind of just do too much. But yeah, this deck is really good. I like the side deck. The rest of it is what I would call a pretty standard Diva Hero Beat deck, but I am noticing that more people are siding Super Poly now. It took a while for this card to really catch steam. I started siding it a while ago, and it seems like it's officially being picked up by the player base as a whole. I think Super Poly is definitely here to stay, considering that the format is just a lot of Miracle Fusion decks, and then the other side of it is usually Value Sirocco decks. So there were 5 Miracle Fusion decks in top 8. So the chances are this card did a lot of work throughout the tournament for him, and also would have done even more work throughout top 8 just because of the odds of playing against somebody who's playing water and heroes in their deck. Okay, next up we have Jacob Patterson with a Frog Hero deck. I imagine that a lot of the Frog Hero decks are a derivative of the build that I've been playing and topping with. Deck Devastators 4, I believe it was. I topped with a build that looks very similar to this one. It looks like this is 1 less Battle Fader, an extra copy of Ryza, and then instead of 3 Regeki Breaks, is playing 1 Regeki Break, 2 Threatening Roars, Mirror Forces in the main deck. And then I see people opting to side Soul Release, which I do like. I'm a fan of the 1 copy of Soul Release. I don't think that you should ever put in more than 1 of it. Cyber Dragon, I personally didn't feel the need to play that card. I haven't felt the need to play it in a while. The machine decks don't seem to be a thing anymore. And on top of that, I just feel like Snowman Eater is a better Cyber Dragon for what I'm trying to do. Because I would only side Cyber Dragon really against a machine deck, which I did not play a single one. And again, I don't think that it's popular, and against Hero Beat, but I think Snowman Eater is just way better. Also, Snowman Eater being water, it is relevant that it is a water monster, because there are times when I ditch the Snowman Eater for Swap Frog because it's like, okay, I'm winning the game already. The Snowman Eater is not needed in this situation, so I'm just going to pitch it for a Swap Frog to bounce a Monarch to my hand or something like that, and just do tricky stuff. But yeah, this build is spot on. It's pretty good. I think that this person also was undefeated in Swiss. If I'm not mistaken, there was 1 Frog Hero player that was 9-0, And I know it wasn't the build that we're going to cover next that plays triple Wing Blast and triple Ryza. So this must have been the person, Jacob, who went 9-0 in Swiss. So congratulations on doing that. That is a feat in itself. But yeah. Okay, so next up we have another Frog Hero deck. And this one, like I said, it plays triple Wing Blast, triple Ryza, main deck Unifrog. It basically puts a lot of pressure on your opponent to act. If they don't do something, they can just get locked out in a game. I do like this build. It also plays Malicious, and it doesn't play Infernal Prodigy. So Malicious is really good with 1-for-1. It's one of the reasons why I tried so hard to fit Malicious in my deck, because Strato Search Malicious and then 1-for-1 is an absolute outrageous opening play. It's the same as like Junk Synchron, 1-for-1, and a monster that Junk Synchron can bring back. It's the best play in the deck. You get so much advantage from it. You pretty much can't lose. And then when you do that on the following turn, you can bring out Unifrog to just push your advantage even further, and it creates a non-game, which is honestly the best way to win in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I get it. Rise and Wing Blast, such a deadly combo, goes all the way back to Perfect Circle format. But yeah, this player also decided to main deck Mirror Force. And then in the side deck, triple Soul Exchange, triple Vanity's Fiends, you know, the standard stuff. Triple Book of Moon. I haven't been a fan of Book of Moon lately. I've just been siding actual removal cards like Compulse and Torrential and stuff like that. I get it though. Book of Moon is good against like Vanity's Fiend, False Dyna, and Kirsty and all that stuff. But I just like to remove them from the field altogether rather than put them face down and then risk not clearing them and having them just flip back face up. So I haven't been playing Book of Moon. I'm not the biggest fan of it anymore, but I get why it's played. And then siding Battle Faders as opposed to siding DD Crows. I think I watched the deck profile and he said that for all the decks that he would side DD Crow against, he would just side Battle Fader against, like zombies and maybe Diva Hero, any deck that can kill you pretty quickly, I guess. I do think that they serve different functions personally, but I get where he's coming from because Zombies does try to OTK you very early, and so does Diva Hero technically, and Crow really isn't good against Diva Hero specifically. It is good against zombies. I think that DD Crow is the best against zombies, but at the end of the day, he has real traps like Wing Blast and stuff to counteract the deck anyway, and I think Wing Blast is really good against those strategies that want cards to be in the graveyard, and instead they're going to the top of the deck. So there's also something to be said about Wing Blasting, let's say an Oppression, and then doing your special summon play like Substitute, and then your opponent has to draw Oppression on their following turn. That's probably just game. Like you think your deck out, you do a lot of your special summoning right there. The deck doesn't have that much special summons after that, and then you can just Monarch train them because he does play 6 Monarchs. So after he thins his deck out and you're drawing Oppression, you're probably getting followed up with Rises and Caiuses, and yeah, that's really, really bad. Also, Wing Blast, it's a great card to have when you're searching Malicious and you don't have like the 1-for-1 play or whatever. You can just, you know, summon Stratos, get Malicious, set Wing Blast. And yeah, it's telegraphed that you have it, but a lot of times your opponent can't really do too much about it. Double Junk Synchron is something that I really like as well. I love Junk Synchron. I was only able to play one in my builds that I've been using lately, but it's the one card that I really, really want to fit a second one of because it is so outrageously powerful. And the interaction where you bring back Treeborn Frog and then summon Junk Synchron and bring back Swap Frog and then bounce Treeborn to your hand in order to use it for a discard trap. That interaction is outrageous. Making discard traps literally free is broken. There's a reason why they have cost, and you're just completely mitigating that cost. But yeah, these decks tend to go super, super plus on the opponent. And the longer the game goes on, the worse it gets. And then obviously it has the bomb of Miracle Fusion. So there's that. But yeah, congrats to Apropos for making top 8. Okay, next we have one of 2 Value Turbo decks in top 8. So this is Evolution. I spoke to him a lot during the event. And his build looks very similar, if not exactly similar, to 10-foot D's. So if you know who that is, he is probably the most prolific Value Turbo player in Edison format. And I feel like all builds are derivative of his. So this one does look very similar to his. There might be some changes in the side deck or whatever, but I think that for the most part, this when I see Spirit Reaper and like all these other ratios, these ratios look exactly like the build that he plays. I think that the one thing I'm noticing is double Dust Tornado and 1 Royal Depression as opposed to 2 Royal Depression and 1 Dust Tornado. Personally, for this tournament, I like double Royal Depression in the main deck just because I do think that it hurts all of the Miracle Fusion decks to have the Oppression, whereas Dust Tornado doesn't really do anything against frogs for the most part. Like you can catch a discard trap, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, Value Turbo, S tier deck, tried and true. It's going to be here to stay forever. It's literally one of the best decks in the format. Okay, next we have my build of Frog Hero. I got top 4. So we're moving into the top 4 deck list now. This is essentially the same deck that I played for Deck Devastators 4. I took out Scapegoat, I put in Trap Dust Shoot. I just wanted something for the mirror match and something for the matchups that are kind of harder for frogs, like Christia Sworn, Light Sworn, stuff like that. So Dust Shoot does help in those matchups. It's also just in general an auto win card. Like I played against someone in round 7, so the last round of day 1, and one of the die roll opened up Dust Shoot, and I saw that he had Dust Shoot in his hand. And I have 3 cards in my hand at the time that I'm looking at his hand. So I sent sent back a card, and then on my turn, because he set 2 back rows, so I assumed that he had Deep Prison, Bottomless, and Dust Shoot in his hand when I saw it. So he set 2 back row, and I was like, well, obviously one of them is Dust Shoot, and he set either Deep Prison or Bottomless. I don't really care which, but I drew to 4 cards in hand, and he was about to flip trap Dust Shoot, but then I activated MST with priority on my draw phase before he can actually activate it, because that's just how Yu-Gi-Oh works. And I MST'd his back row, and I did not hit the trap Dust Shoot. I ended up hitting the other trap, so the Dust Shoot was still there. And then essentially what happened is I won the entire game with his Dust Shoot set because I played under 4 cards for the entire game. So the Dust Shoot was completely dead the whole game, and also he had Gores in his hand when I saw it. So not only was the Dust Shoot dead, but the Gores was dead as well, and stuff like that. Dust Shoot is just one of the most unfair cards. I have it as literally number 2 in the whole format. Like, I think that it's Brain Control, then Dust Shoot, and then like third is Future Fusion. But yeah, Dust Shoot in the hands of a good player is quite literally supposed to be the end of the game, unless their hand is just dog shit. But yeah, it's too much to have that much information on your opponent. So I decided, you know what, let me put another auto win card in my deck, and it worked out. Every time I activated this card, it was pretty strong. I did a full like review of my deck list and stuff on my channel, so if you go look on there, go about 2 videos ago, I think it should be that video. It's like a thumbnail of Naruto in Sage mode. So if you want to hear me talk about a lot of the choices and why my ratios are the way they are, because I know a lot of people do wonder why I'm playing like 1 Ryza, 1 Junk Synchron, stuff like that. I do explain all of that in that video, so I won't do it here again, but yeah. Okay, in third place, we have Plant Burn, Amaryllis Burn, whatever you want to call it. Amaryllis Turbo, as it's called here, by Straight Outta Compton. So I played him in the top 4 playoffs and he won. This deck is really good in my opinion. I have been caping for it for a while. I like that he is playing Lord Poison. I didn't know what this card even did until this weekend. So Lord Poison says, when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 plant monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. Also, I'm noticing that this is not an optional effect. So if this thing dies in battle, it looks like you have to target a plant monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So it can't miss timing or whatever, because it's not optional. But you can crash this into a monster and just bring out Titanial. That's wild. Like, you trade some life points for a 2800 negating monster. Like, Titanial is insane. It's also a plant itself, and that's relevant too, because Longfire can technically go into it. It can also be banished for cards like Mark of the Rose. It can also be banished for the Phoenician Cluster Amaryllis, since on the end phase you have to banish plant monsters to bring it back. So Lord Poison fulfills a lot of those roles. He took the 3 volcanic counters out of the main deck, and then he put them into the side deck. I would love to hear exactly why that is. I don't think I saw his deck profile yet, but I'm curious of why the volcanic counters would be in the side deck. Maybe against certain matchups he wants them, and then certain ones he doesn't. That's like the most basic line that I can think of. Because for me, I think that card is a win condition, and I get it. It is also one of the reasons why the deck can lose, because it's kind of a bricky card too. Like, you don't want to draw it, you want it in your graveyard. But I do like that when this deck gets your opponent down to a certain amount of life points, they can't possibly win because of volcanic counter just chilling in the graveyard. So if you don't know how to play against this deck, that card is extremely broken. Basically what you want to do is that you want to get something like a Treeborn Frog and attack directly with that, deal damage with Treeborn Frog, and then you'll take 100 and they'll take 100, and that'll just burn the volcanic counter for no reason. So frogs can deal with that in a really good way, but the problem is Titanial negates all things that target. And if you look at any frog list that has been doing well lately, all of us are playing like soul exchanges and econs and discard traps, like Regeki Break and Wing Blast and stuff like that. And all of those suck against Titanial, especially once there are tokens or just other plants on the field. They all become minuses. So if he can establish Titanial, then things start to get really, really bad. And it gets harder and harder to make volcanic counter not do anything, because you're so worried about what's on the field that it's hard to worry about what's in the graveyard. But it's a very tricky deck to play against. I think that it's definitely one of the better decks in the format. And this was a solid showing. Getting 3rd place at Nationals is really, really solid showing. Biggest tournament, I believe, since actual SJC Edison in 2010. But yeah, congrats to Straight Outta Compton. Okay, next up we have my boy A True Hero, aka Cairo King. So this is his Diva hero list. And I know that pretty much this deck changes very subtly throughout his tournament run. So this time he's playing Spirit Reaper. Me and him talked about this a while ago. I told him that I might actually play Diva Hero for a tournament. This is literally like maybe 2 months ago now. I told him I might play Diva Hero, and that the only change I would make in his list is I would take out Mystic Tomato and put in Spirit Reaper. And every tournament he takes like 1 card out. Usually at one point it was Penguin Soldier, then it became Tomato. Now it's Spirit Reaper. So no matter what that card becomes, it seems like the deck still performs the same overall. Like it's a It's a deck that tops pretty much all the tournaments and does really, really well. I like the idea of Spirit Reaper in this deck because it adds some level of defense, but also ripping cards out of the opponent's hand is another win condition. So I'm a big fan of that. People never expect it when they attack face down. Like a lot of times they think that you might be down and out because you're setting monsters, but like setting Reaper is just really scary because on the turn that they attack into it, well, not only are they essentially threatening Roared, they're not doing any damage that turn, but they also have to be in fear that you might put it in attack mode next turn and go in to get a card out of their hand. So it makes your opponent commit more cards to the field, which then plays into cards like Heavy Storm and Absolute Zero and stuff like that. So while they're trying to protect their hand, they're playing into Miracle Fusion, and that is exactly what this deck wants you to do. It wants you to play into Absolute Zero because then it gets the most value. So you trying to defend yourself by putting more cards on the field or setting more back row or whatever, it plays into what this deck's actual win conditions are. But yeah, shout out there to True Hero for getting second place. This is a solid showing as usual. Now let's move on to first place. So here is the winning deck list. We have Matt Kalinda, and again, this looks like 10-foot Dick's build. It looks like it's like I said, the double oppression and the 1 Dust Tornado. So the ratios there, those all look correct. The side deck, it's all decent. I like the 3 pulling the rug. Double Starlight Row for Black Wings, for Light Sworn, stuff like that. Then Thunder King, I guess against things like zombies. Dragon Turbo, that card's really good against. And then Fossil Dine is solid. The 1 Kaiku mirror match, and also against Frogs, solid. Because you're going to side out your set monsters. So you're going to side out your Raikos and Hamsters against Frogs. And then you put in your Fossil Dinas, your Kaiku, and then all your annoying ass traps. But yeah, this deck is really solid. We've seen this so many times. And the fact that it just, the same list essentially is just constantly topping and winning tournaments proves that 10-foot really got it right. Like, this is literally what you want to be playing. Matt was able to beat me and Cairo, a True Hero, so he's a really good player. I'm actually curious to what he lost to on day 2, because I know that he was 7-0 day 1, and then day 2 he lost both rounds of Swiss, and he got 8th place in top 8 and then won out. So I'm wondering what 2 decks beat him. I wonder what happened. I didn't really get a chance to talk to him about it, but yeah, he's really, really good. I believe he went the Worlds one year too. Like, I'm pretty sure in like 2015 or 2014 or one of those years, he was a Worlds qualifier. So it's always nice to see like really good players playing in Edison format or playing in any retro format. But yeah, he was a pleasure to play against. Really chill guy. He reminds me of myself in a lot of ways because he doesn't really talk when he's playing. Like, he's just kind of quiet. Doesn't really give too much away. Like, he doesn't, if he draws bad or whatever, you can't tell. If he draws well, you can't tell. You just kind of quietly sits there and plays the game, and that's what I prefer. I play against people who are way more animated, people who give too much away in their body language and the things they say out loud, or they complain when they draw a bad card or whatever. And like, that stuff does matter in person. So if you can get those emotions under check, then it'll be to your benefit. Matt Kalinda definitely has a very stoic, like, stone face when he's playing. And I've been told the same about myself. I kind of just like sit there. You can't tell if I have like double malicious in my hand or something. You would never be able to tell. So having a strong poker face, it goes far. Yeah, congrats to everybody who made top 8. This was a 270 plus person tournament, and it's a Konami event. It felt really good to be able to top this event with not only one of my closest friends, but also just to prove again and again, like, that I'm a good player and that I can continue to top events and stuff even after taking such a long break from Yu-Gi-Oh, from like 2016 until 2022, which is when I started playing Edison again. And I feel like I've also found the deck that I like the most, which is very clearly Frogs at this point. Like, the deck has given me a lot of success, and there seems to be a rise in the number of Frog players as a result, especially Hero Frogs. So that's nice to see. The meta, I imagine, is going to continue to be pushed for that deck, and players will come up with newer ideas and stuff. But yeah, shout out to everyone who made top 8, and also shout out to everyone who made top 16, because I do feel like this tournament should have been top 16. I think that if you're going to play 9 rounds and have that many players, there's no reason why it shouldn't be. I feel like having to go X1 to guarantee your spot is a little annoying, but we'll talk about that at another time. Anyways, I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.